What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another Straight Shooters video. I'm your host, Sid, and you already know what it is. It's time to do another NFL Power Rankings. Playoffs is just about to begin. I'm recording this about half an hour before the first game, which will be the Chargers at the Texans. I know it's been a while, but I wanted to kind of let the rest of the season, the last few weeks of the season, play out and just see how this thing was going to go, how this thing was going to finish off, what the seedings was going to be. We have our brackets, as you can see on the screen. I'm going to jump right into it with the playoff edition of the Power Rankings. Number 14, we have the Steelers. So losing your last 4 games and giving up the division crown isn't the ideal way to enter the playoffs. Even worse, not being able to score more than 17 points in any of those games shows that your offense is lacking at the worst possible time of the year. The Steelers are lucky to be facing the Ravens in their first round matchup because of familiarity, but don't expect any sort of upset to happen. Number 13, we have the Broncos. The last game against the Chiefs doesn't really matter as they were playing the backups, so the games I'm concerned with were the games against the Chargers and the Bengals. 2 teams that were hungry and fighting for a playoff spot, and both teams beat the Broncos, which is not a good look going into the playoffs. And that shows me that the Broncos really aren't ready for that playoff smoke. They get the Bills in the first round, so expect them to get bounced expeditiously. Number 12, the Texans. Now, it's been a rocky season for my adopted son in his sophomore year. Luckily, he's in a weak division, so there was no really challenge for him to be usurped for his divisional crown. Throughout the year, losing weapons at like Stephon Diggs early, Tank Dell a little bit later in the season, along with losing Joe Mixon for a little while in between. That had something to do with his inconsistency and the overall inconsistency of the offense. But as a leader and a franchise player, I got to hold CJ accountable. CJ has to play better. He has to show what he's made of in these playoffs. In the first round, he'll have a chance to show what he's really made of against the Chargers. Number 11. Speaking of the Chargers, obviously they match up with the Texans, and the best part of how they ended the season could be summed up with one word: confidence. They're riding a 3-game winning streak going into the playoffs. 2 of those games were a couple of layups, but one of those games was against the Broncos, a divisional rival and also a playoff team. Also, they get to play against a team that is lacking 2 of their best offensive weapons, and Houston is not a cold place to play, or on the East Coast, which has been a problem historically for the Chargers in the playoffs. Even though it actually might ironically be pretty cold in Houston come game time. Number 10, the Commanders. Riding a 5-game winning streak into the playoffs is exactly what you want to be doing. They beat the divisional rivals, the Eagles and the Cowboys in that span, and they contributed to the elimination of the Falcons from playoff contention. During the Eagles game about a month ago, they caused serious concern to the Eagles by injuring quarterback Jalen Hurts. So the question you probably have is, why are they only ranked 10th in my power rankings? Well, 3 reasons. 1, they will be playing on the road. 2, they have a below average defense. And 3, they haven't been into the playoffs since 2012 and are now just getting there after 12 years while being led by a rookie quarterback. Meanwhile, the team that they're matched up against is a very experienced and more playoff battle-tested team. Speaking of which, number 9, the Buccaneers. So let's talk about the Bucs. This is another team that has taken advantage of a weak division, but that doesn't mean they aren't battle-tested. They actually beat Washington game 1 of the season, and to add to that, they have wins against both the Eagles and the Lions, the number 1 and number 2 seeds in the NFC Conference. They have a win against a playoff team in the Chargers in the AFC, and those are their best wins of the year. They get to host an inexperienced Commanders team, And I really expect them to win a hard-fought game, basically the book in the Commander season, beginning with a loss and ending with a loss. Number 8, the Packers. Ironically, the Packers are in the same situation as the Commanders, as they also get to face the same team that they started the season with and lost to here in the first round of playoffs. But here's where the difference lies. The Packers have been here before. They were in the playoffs last year, so they know what they're getting into. Last year, they faced the champion of the NFC East and embarrassed them. Can they repeat that performance? Maybe. After battling in the toughest division in football, they're very battle-tested, and historically, the cold weather has been a haven for them. They face an Eagles team that is facing a little bit of a QB issue, as Jalen Hurts is coming off of concussion, so he may be rusty after sitting out for a couple weeks, and maybe their defense can take advantage of that. As for their own offense, they do have a problem. They're missing a key component of their aerial attack, with Chris Watson being out with a torn ACL. This team is one of the more interesting underdog teams of the first round. I expect a dogfight from them, but I couldn't put them any higher in the power rankings. Number 7, the Vikings. All right, I'm gonna have to be honest. If they hadn't swept the Packers, I'd have this team rated lower than them. I think this team is one that is tough to play against, but I can't bring myself to believe in Sam Darnold come playoff time. I just can't. They get a rematch against the Rams, against the Rams team, I should say, that beat them earlier in the season. So this should be a fun shootout to watch, and the Vikings will have revenge on their mind. Let's see if they can get it done. Number 6, the Rams. So let's talk about the Rams. I think that the Rams survived and took the crown in the second toughest division in the NFL, despite the records of the teams. Battling through injuries to Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua all throughout the season, the Rams go into the postseason. Excuse me. With their full arsenal of weapons, a ton of experience, and a Super Bowl winning coach and QB leading them. And outside of the last game, which they gave away to the Seahawks because it didn't really matter, they were riding a 5-game winning streak with a big-time win against the Bills, powerful team in the AFC. They represent one of the more dangerous teams in the NFC side of the playoffs, and the top 2 seeds better watch out if they ever have to come up against them. Number 5, the Ravens. So since losing to the Eagles, the Ravens have demolished the rest of the teams on their schedule and ride a 4-game win streak into the playoffs, defeating the Steelers and Texans along the way and snatching the divisional crown away from the Steelers. Lamar Jackson is having another MVP type of season, and the defense seems to finally be coming along. Number 4, the Lions. Now, the Lions have been dominant all season long and are the number 1 team in the NFC. They have battled through and taken the crown of the toughest division in the NFL. They have a wealth of playoff experience from their battles of last year and a QB that has already been to a Super Bowl before. So, why only 4th on my power ranking list? Simple answer: injuries. From Aiden Hutchinson to several of their cornerbacks, to David Montgomery as probably the latest major injury. I feel that this team is too decimated by the injuries to make it out of the NFC, and even with the bye week, it's going to be a chore for them to make it to the Super Bowl. Number 3, the Eagles. Now, not going for history with Saquon, rushing for 2,000 yards and only being 101 yards away from making history, that rubbed me the wrong way. I feel like they should have went for it. Jalen Hurts recovered from a concussion and be out for several weeks. Both those things combined deduct points in the power rankings for me. I know the first is petty, but fuck it, I'm gonna be petty. I mean, I know if it was my team, I'd want them to go for it and not be scared because, you know, it's football and we try to make history happen, you know. So now I feel like the Eagles better win it all to make up for depriving Saquon of that historical feat. I understand, you know, it's important to rest the player, and it's important to not get injuries and all that kind of stuff. But come on, man, be brave. What I will say is, though, the Eagles have a strong enough team to win it all. So they neither lack on offense or the defensive side of the ball. They have experience and will host all the games in the NFC unless they play against the Lions. Number 2, the Bills. Even though Lamar Jackson has put together another MVP level season, I believe the Bills have the actual MVP of this year, and they have the ability to host every playoff game except for against the Chiefs, a team that they beat earlier in the season, by the way. And they're number 2 because they're in their best position to make their best run yet. All they have to do is play and win these games. And finally, number 1, the Chiefs. The year started this way, and now it ends this way. With nothing to indicate any real weakness in this team, it'll be a monumental effort for any of the other 13 teams to beat this team and deprive them of winning that 3rd straight Super Bowl. They got the bye in the first round, obviously. So we'll see the Chiefs in the second round, and we'll assess that matchup then when we see who they get to play. All right. So that's it for this video. Like, share, and subscribe, and to continue this journey throughout the playoffs. We'll be assessing the matchups from week to week. I'm your host, Sid, again. Catch you next time. Peace.